Let's go. Let's get into these fights. We had quite a few slappers from this weekend. Quite a few interesting technical things I noticed. We'll get into the main event first. We had Jung versus Ige. Jung took it in the unanimous decision. It was a pretty close fight, other than the ground game, where although Ige was defending well, it really seemed like he had no answers to get out. He was unable to create space, really provide any sort of threat, or get a sweep, or do anything. And really just it was repeated. He would either just get his back taken, or Jung would just be in his guard and just control, throwing, a little bit of ground and pound, enough to force Ige to move. And as soon as he moves, or tries to change position, usually by, maybe twisting to his back, chasing a single or something, then Jung would just take his back and control him with the leg triangle around his back. And each time he would get close to coming off, he'd just rewrap it and rewrap it. And it was really, you could see that was really frustrating Ige. And although, and as well as Jung's working for the hands, working for the rear naked choke. So Ige has to defend that. He's not really able to get his hands down to the feet to try and pry them off. It was a really great performance on the ground there, and on the feet from both guys. On the feet, it was much closer. Both guys had big moments on the feet, landing big shots. Ige found his success later in the fight on the feet, as Jung started to slow down a bit on the feet and wasn't as snappy and quick. Ige was still pretty quick and strong in those late rounds, which is pretty impressive. You can see how good of a gas tank he has on him. In the first rounds, Jung was really getting the better of the exchanges. His eyes, he seemed to be seeing a lot of the shots. He's landing the bigger shots. You could tell Ige was very uncomfortable on the feet. There's quite a few times where Ige is shooting in on Jung. And speaking of which, there was a really interesting exchange in round 2 that I took note of. It gets about two minutes 30 seconds in to the fight. You'll see it happen. Jung lands a pretty big, he's having success on the feet. He lands a pretty big overhand right over Ige's rear hand. And Ige shoots in on a good single leg, a good move, because he was getting hit. He's not in a good place. Alleviates some of this pressure with the single leg. He presses Jung to the fence. He's chasing. He does like a 360, trying to cut the angle on him. Jung defends well, drops down, sprawls on him. Looks like he's gonna go grab like the foot, like the wrestler move, where someone's kind of like, if they're going in, they're either going on a single or double, and you're sprawled on them, and they still have that lock around you. And they're kind of flat and turtled. You can like grab their foot behind their back and start, torquing on the knee and hip creating issues in their base. It's hard to drive and finish that takedown. I thought he was going to do that, but what he actually did is went and grabbed Ige's left arm and started folding it behind his back, almost like the police officer hold, kind of the shoulder torque thing. But he started folding it, and I don't know if you can actually submit from there, but he's obviously creating enough discomfort that Ige is, one, struggling to finish this single leg that he's trying to finish, and two, he kind of has to bail a little bit to to address the fact his shoulder's getting torqued on. I thought that was really interesting. I don't see a lot of people doing that. And from that, then Ige presses him back up against the fence, putting a lot of pressure on him, has his head underneath his chin, he's grinding underneath him. And when Jung gets with his left arm a tight overhook, and with his right hand he's holding straight, he's holding same side wrist control on Ige, and he's defending in this position. I don't know if he's waiting for some moment in particular to do something, but then he just is super deft. He lifts the overhook out and at the same time he sidesteps to the same side, wrist control on the same side, so his right side. He steps out, and then that overhook arm becomes a post frame for him to push away, and then he gets, in which he does, and then he's able to just easily get off the fence, and he can reset the fight in the center of the octagon. He uses that controlling position. He's able to get that clinch break a few times on Ige, and I just thought that was a very interesting piece of the fight. That was, when I first saw it, I didn't realize how interesting it was, but it was a very slick maneuver that he was able to repeatedly perform. I thought that was a really good off the fence work from the Korean Zombie there. Yeah, but other than that, I don't think there was any other crazy moment that I wanted to analyze from that. It was a great fight. It was a good scrap. Good win for Chan Sung Jung. I really liked how when he was striking, he was frustrating Ige a lot with that piercing jab of his. He was really stepping in and really throwing a long piercing jab that gets through this high guard that Ige is holding. And then at the same time, he's also throwing these big overhands and left hooks to get around the guard. So kind of, he's offering like a proposition to Ige, whether to defend these straight shots and maybe pull his guard in tight over the front of his face, but then doing so exposes the side of his head where Jung is landing these really powerful shots. Round 2, I think like right off bat, he lands like a super good right hand right on the side of the head, and you can see how much it impacts Ige. And even though Ige is a tough guy and he's got a chin on him, you can see that some of these punches wobble him, and you see him get a little gun shy for a couple seconds, like 10-30 seconds. Yeah, it was a really interesting fight. I thought that was a good one. I'm excited to see we're both rebound off that. Even though Ige lost, it was not a bad performance by any stretch. And especially those late rounds, he really was able to turn up. And against most other competitors, I feel like he's not at this like grappling disadvantage, So he would be really able to put that power on people. Yeah, it was a good performance by both. We got to see good folds and wrinkles out of both gentlemen. We had Alexei Olenek 2 versus Sergey Spivak. There was nothing spectacular going on in that fight. I was pretty surprised that Olenek made it out. He's a tough old guy. He just continues to surprise. Like, you see him in there and you're like, there's no way this guy should be in there, and then he does. Like the first round or so, he was like, you could tell he's frustrating Spivak with these like just crazy hooking. He just holds his like head, eyes looking straight at the floor, top of the head presented to you, and just whipping these crazy like uppercutting shovel hooks, overhands. It was just kind of a grind fest where, as it goes on, you see Spivak, he's faster and stronger on the feet as the fight goes on, and in the clinch and in the wrestling. He's just a bigger, stronger guy. There wasn't really any big moments by either fighter. It was just kind of, I felt like it was a slight edge towards Spivak, but I also wasn't watching this fight that into it, or that focused, because it wasn't that interesting to me. But that was a fight that happened. Spivak did prove that he could punch through the gatekeeper of the heavyweight division. And I actually feel like he probably will find pretty good success against most heavyweights, just on the merits that he can wrestle, and he actually ground and pounds from there. He doesn't just lay on top. But underneath that, we had Marlon Vera, Davy Grant, which actually was quite a good fight. This is a real slapper. I don't know if it was fight of the night. It was definitely one of the fight of the nights for me. Round 1, you're seeing Davy Grant, fast, explosive. He's landing lots of kicks. He's whipping big punches as he does around Vera's guard. Vera's finding success in low kicks, these teeps to the stomach. A lot of straight shots. He's throwing his jab more than I usually see him throwing. Really tight, straight right hands to get and beat Davy Grant's looping punches. The elbows and knees out of the clinch. Vera would get to these clinch moments and immediately he's like looking for these knees and elbows, which he finds, and they are really effective. The knees to the body and the head affect Grant quite a bit. There's a moment around 2 where Vera like gets hold of the back of his head with one hand, and then with his right arm he's just incessant, or it might have been his left arm he's throwing the elbows with, but like 5 elbows back to back, opening up cuts on Davy Grant's face. He was really effective out of that clinch range, and then he was able to finish up the last round with a good takedown and controlling and softening and pounding up Davy Grant. It's a good win for Marlon Vera. He's a tough dude. Has a solid chin on him. Very durable, and the cardio there you can see. And even as the fight went on, you could see Davy Grant's cardio is like dwindling and dwindling. The dude is still in it. He's tough as nails, just right in front of Vera, whipping big punches. And you could just see like he just does not have the gas to keep going. But that was a real good fight by both of these gentlemen. Both had big moments. In the hands, you probably would say Grant had the better moments, but Vera was very effective with his teeps, low kicks, and in that inside clinch work, really brutalizing Grant up. There was a really nice spinning back kick that Grant that landed. It was like a spinning hook kick right on the side. Vera's head landed like round 2, I think, at the end. That was pretty good. Underneath that, we had Julian Erosa versus Seung Choi. Choi was very, very impressive. You could tell right out of the gate there was a speed differential that was just too much. Choi is just landing jabs and left hooks, just like bouncing his hands off of fucking Erosa's face. And Erosa he's trying to move his head, but he's just not quick enough. He's just not able to react to these strikes. Choi threw a really nice question mark kick too. It did not land, but it was coming over like the lead shoulder of Erosa. It was close. I thought that was a good look. There was not a whole bunch to analyze as the fight got ended in the first round, but the finishing blow I really liked. Choi throws this right hand and purposefully comes up short on it. It does not land on Erosa, but he follows through heavily with it and lands a heavy left hook, the punch that he's intending to land, and it sparks Erosa. It lands him flush on the chin. Choi just gets on top and ends it with some quick hammer fists to the face. But that was a really educated strike choice, and the fact that he was able to get to his counter like that quickly, didn't take him multiple rounds. And he really faced no adversity in this fight. He's definitely going to be a prospect. His other fights, I've seen him have really good work out of the clinch too, with knees and elbows. So I will be interested to see. The only thing I would say is this is a wrestler heavy division, and if you don't have grappling credentials and you don't have the ability to like stop takedowns, and I feel like it's almost an inevitability you will get on the ground, and if you can't grapple and create scrambles and get back to your feet, you're gonna have a tough time in this division. Because a lot of these guys got cardio for days, and even if they're not wrestlers by trade and that's all they do, they have wrestling capabilities, and people are gonna want to wrestle against this guy because he's fucking sharp on the feet. But this was a great performance. I'd like to see some of that grappling tested and see what he's got there. But if he shows that he's the complete package, I feel like this dude is a legit contender here in featherweight. We had a middleweight bout, Wellington Turman, Bruno Silva. This is another kind of interesting one. Apparently there's a little history between these boys. They had a grappling tournament where I believe Bruno Silva had the better of the two. In this fight, immediately, about like 15 seconds into round 1, Turman shoots in single leg, tries to get like back control on Silva, gets shucked off. They continue to have like a wrestling engagement between the two, Silva and Turman, and it feels like Turman is slightly more proficient here. He has a higher work rate. He's the one that seems to be getting the controlling position. He gets on another standing back triangle, holds it for a lot longer. And then after that, I believe he gets shucked off, and then Silva I think he just enters into guard after shucking him off here. But at some point here, at the end of the round, Silva does end up in Turman's full guard, and he's just taking his time landing these. They're not really explosive or anything. He's just kind of letting the weight of his hands do most of the work. These like hooking shots, and he's got long arms, and they're landing on Turman, and you see just one of them land, and he just sparks him. He's out cold. You could tell they're just like chipping away at his consciousness, you know. And when your head's on the back of the canvas like that, it's even worse. So these punches don't have to be that hard, especially when you're a big guy like that. But yeah, he gets the knockout round one. There's only like 15 seconds left in the round. I didn't really get to see any of him on the feet, which was kind of what I was most interested in seeing, because that's what it seems like. He's a heavy hitter. I mean, he showed it with this ground and pound, but that was a pretty fun finish. And then we actually had Matt Brown pulling a fucking victory out, this old dog, against Diego Lima. The Lima brothers destroyer right here, man. He beat Douglas Lima, and he's beating Diego Lima. Diego looked a lot better physically than his last fight. That was good to see, and he was a lot quicker and more active. But Matt Brown made a really smart read. I don't remember the whole fight, if there was any other interesting things that had happened. But I do remember the KO, and he had made a good read, and he was even talking through it at the end, where he's going to fake the right hand to the body and just shoots the right hand upstairs. It lands flush on the chin, and Lima's out like a light. Didn't need any follow-up. It was pretty sweet. I like seeing the old dogs get a win like that. I'm doubtful he's going to be mounting any sort of crazy momentum off this, but get that fucking check, dude. He's been around here for a while. I did not anticipate that, but here we go. In the prelims, we also had some pretty fun stuff. Alexa Kamur, who is a training partner of Stipe Miocic, and Nikolai Negumereanu. That was a fun fight, because you see Alexa is much more, you can tell in these exchanges, he's much more skilled in the hands. He's throwing much better combinations, like technically, and he seems to have a lot more power behind him. But Negumereanu did not take a back step the whole fight, and he keeps coming forward, and he's almost throwing like kind of like comically silly like punches at times, like Rock'em Sock'em Robot-esque like hammer fists while standing. But he keeps the pressure, and he crushes this guy really through power of attrition, really. Like, he doesn't land like anything crazy technical, but he's just a big, strong guy. He doesn't take a back step. He's tiring Alexa out. Kamur keeps back. He keeps the real killer is the fact he was not standing his ground and like just tearing into him. He just kept backstepping, just kept feeding and kept giving distance, very much like Barboza-esque. And yeah, Negumereanu was just all too happy to take the front foot and put pressure and tire Kamur out by either pressing him on the fence or just throwing these like funny punches that just, eventually tired this guy out. And you can tell, even though they look funny, there still is power behind him because he's a big, strong guy. But that was kind of a funny fight. Kanako Murata versus Virna Jandiroba was pretty good. A lot of action in the first round, and Jandiroba gets her in this armbar, which I believe breaks the arms, breaks or dislocates. And Murata's tough as nails because she finishes out this round still on the feet, like standing and punching. But the doctor comes in, doesn't take long to be like, yeah, she can't be fighting. That arm ain't right. That was a fun one. Chaos Williams, Matthew Semmelsberger. Williams looked good. He fought a very measured fight for the most part. I liked how he still kept the things that have found him success, which is those like exchanges that are not technical and they're kind of wild, and he flurries and throws big punches, but not only doing that, not only relying on that. He was fighting behind his jab well and low kicks, and then flurrying when it was wise to do so, and he was able to stack up quite a lead on Semmelsberger and put a big amount of damage on him. And he was able to get Semmelsberger worried about these flurries and punches coming. It wasn't just like a one-sided beatdown by any stretch, and Semmelsberger was landing, but he just wasn't landing as much or enough to get the dub. Good fight by both guys. It's a 3-rounder. You learn a lot. A lot to grow. Both these guys seem like they have some potential to at least, maybe scrape into the top 15 or something. Josh Parisian, Roque Martinez. Don't need to really get into that one. It's a bit of a boring affair. Joaquim Silva and Ricky Glenn, though, that was the other one I wanted to talk about. It happened real quick into round 1, about 30 seconds, but Ricky Glenn just sparked Joaquim Silva. A nicely placed right hand right over the punch of Silva, landed clean on the jaw. He just wasn't able to recover, and Glenn was able to get the finish. It was sweet. And then Casey O'Neill with the submission, 3rd round. I believe it was a rear naked choke or something over Laura Procopio. Yeah, it was. She got the rear naked choke, put Procopio to sleep. Yeah, good win. And that's it. And that's the card. It's a good fucking fight card. I'm going to get this breakdown for this Saturday out. Yeah, I'm excited. Hope you guys like those fights as much as I did. And thank you for watching. I'll be back.